forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. We're on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
Saludos. Welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering Nuestra Familia members over almost the past 60 years. Today, we'll start off with the B, as in Bravo. Start off with Frank Anthony Baca, known as Pancho, from Salas. I show he was an NF member in the 1980s under C number 50051. I show that he was housed at Pelican Bay SHU during the 1990s and evidently got into some conflicts with Pinky Hernandez and Corny Tristan. He then was moved to Corcoran Segregation, where he is housed in 2012 and is currently at the Sierra Conservation Center. There's Marcos Puppet Baca out of San Ho. I don't have a lot of information on him other than that he was in bad standings with the Carnales when he was at the Santa Clara County Jail. And I show that he was murdered on January 28, 1991 by Spanky Serna, which was part of a RICO case. There was Pedro Driver Baca out of Sacra. I show he was convicted of a drive-by shooting in Sacramento in 1984, but actually was incarcerated for a DWI in 1989 on E number 37628. Understand that he got out on that, but then was convicted of attempted murder in 1993. He then paroled in 1994, but had several violations throughout the 1990s. I show then he was convicted on another murder and was housed at DVI in 2003 on T number 89688. He was housed at Pleasant Valley State Prison in 2012 and is currently housed at High Desert State Prison. I show a Jason Listo Backmeyer from Santa Rosa. He was part of the Wolf Pack, which was mentioned in the RICO case. Understand he was made NF by none other than Lizard Hernandez in 2001, right around the time of Operation Black Widow. And Listo Backmeyer was given K number 52314. And I show was no longer in custody as of at least 2010. There's Diosdado Bacho, a.k.a. Wizard, a.k.a. Flaco, from Fresno. I show that he did YA time in 1984 and then was sent to the adult system at Folsom Prison in 1986. Under C number 93405. He then was sent to Tehachapi in 87, and I show paroled in 1996. There was a Patrick Tree Baker out of Oakland. I show he was NF in the early 1970s under B number 69644. He was part of the Bobble Car, and I believe was housed at San Quentin in 83 through 84. He then was shipped out to Folsom Prison in 85. And had dropped out by that time. He later on was housed at New Folsom, a facility with Bobble around the year 1990. There was a Peter Cleverbar from San Ho. I show he did YA time around 1990 and was housed at the Santa Clara County Jail in 1997 when our first vice president of the International Latino Gang Investigators Association, Rick Cowboy Handel, dealt with him. He was convicted and in 1998 given K number 87885. I then showed that he was returned to the Santa Clara County Jail in 2000, housed at San Quentin in 2001, back to the county jail in 2002 on a firearms charge, back to Q in 02, back to the county jail in 03 for a firearm, and back to Q in 04. This guy just couldn't stay out. Understand he was a big-time dope dealer in the area, and I'm unsure of his current whereabouts. There was Eduardo Barbosa Segura, a.k.a. Casper, a.k.a. Güero. I believe he was originally from Arizona, but also had ties to the Sacramento, Yuba City area. I have comments that he was suspected of being Nuestra Familia, but that was documented by a private corrections facility, and previously had CDC number J26536. There was a John Jr. Vara out of Santa Cruz. I show he was Nuestra Raza in the late 90s under K number 28884 and was housed at Pelican Bay SHU in 2012, but is currently housed at SADF. He had a brother or a cousin named Josiah Vara, aka Smiley, who I show was out of Fresno County. He had the number right after him, K28885, and I show was also housed at Pelican Bay in 2012 and is also currently at SADF. Hopefully both of those guys are getting their stuff together so they can get out one day and live a drug-free, gang-free life. There's Anthony Bubba Barasa out of Sacra. I show he was Nuestra Raza in the 1990s under K number 47071. He was housed at Pelican Bay SHU from 2012 to at least 2018, and I understand was close to DC Cervantes. Anthony Barasa is currently housed at Solano. There was Ricardo Jr. Barasa out of Sacra. He had K number 15962. And I show was also Nuestra Raza in the 1990s when he was housed at Corcoran. He was housed at DVI in 1999. I believe then he was released but got popped on firearms, which brought him federal charges under BOP number 13765-097. I showed that he was housed at Leavenworth 2003, but then shipped out to Perkins in 2004 and was released in 2008. There was a David Chico Barrera from Fresno. I show he was Northern Structure in the 1980s, but was not validated until 1996 under C number 82351. He was housed at Tehachapi in 1988, released, caught a firearms charge in 1992, and paroled in 1996. I showed that he was popped in Nevada in 1997 and given a parole violation, but paroled by 2004. I then show that he got attempted 187 in 2004 and given V number 7994648. Then show that he was paroled in 2011, but then was returned to custody and is currently housed at SADF in Corcoran. There was a Luis Wicked Barrios. I show had ties to Sacra, but was also part of the Gilas Regiment. I show that he was Northern Structure first, but then moved up the ladder and eventually became documented as being Nuestra Familia when he was housed at Corcoran in 2011. Understand that he gave the keys to Conejo Lucero around that time, and I think was popped on a bank robbery. I show a Joseph Dragon Barron from Cantaranas, back when quite a few Nuestra Familia members were from Southern California. He had B number 49693. I show he was active with the NF in the 1970s, but not validated until 1980. I show then he came back into custody with F numbers in Frank 48387, but was out of CDC by at least 2010. There's Roberto Colombo Barron, who was also NF in the 1970s under B number 46715. I showed that he stayed out of trouble for a while, but then was returned to custody in April 2009 under G number 54391. He was then revalidated in 2011 and housed at Folsom SHU in 2012. I believe he was present when Matt Rocha got hit in 2020, and he is currently housed at CTF in Soledad. There was Alejandro Barron out of Stockton. I show that he did YA time in 1979, but then hit CDC in 1985 through 86 when he was housed at CRC. I show that he was convicted of a drive-by shooting in Galt, California, just north of Stockton, and where the CDC Academy is located, in 1987. He then was given E numbers in Edward 33399. Apparently, he was prosecuted on federal charges under BOP number 56953-097. I show that he did time in Leavenworth in 2003, but was released by 2004. There was Robert Bobby Batista out of Fresno, but also had ties to Washington State. So there's another one. I show he did YA time in the early 90s and then was convicted of attempted 187 whereby he was given J number 2108. I took this picture of Bobby here in my classification office when I interviewed him. And as you can see, he has a tattoo of 114% Buster. Buster is a derogatory name that a lot of Sureños would call Norteños. Sod busters, as in farmers. But a lot of these guys would turn it around and say, yeah, I'm a buster, 114% buster. I'm proud of it. I showed that he did time at Wasco in 2000 and was housed at DVI in 2002. But he's a good example of not all Fresneros being bulldogs. He is what is referred to as being a Fresnorte. There was Old Man Dave Bautista, who was Nuestra Familia in the 1970s. As I understand, he was present at least one of the Bakersfield shootings when the NF tried to take out Chalo Hernandez. And I understand knows quite a bit about NF history. There was a Bazan family out of West Modesto that included Freddie, Israel, and Robert. I believe they all were involved with the Northern Structure during the 1990s. There was Charles Blue Eyes Beard out of San Diego. He was NF in the 1970s under B number 51584, and I dealt with him at C facility in the late 1980s. There was John Coyote Beberena from Oakland. I showed that he was Northern Structure in the early 1980s at San Quentin under C number 58942. He later on was made NF by at least 1990, but was not validated until 1995. Understand he dropped out soon after that and was housed at Lancaster in 2012, but I currently show is not in custody. There was Sabino Jr. Barrera at Porros, but I also show had ties to Texas. I'm not sure if he had ties to Texas Syndicate, but there was quite a few at one time, Northern Structure members who also had ties to the Texas Syndicate, as I mentioned in the Alpha episode in reference to Thomas Solo Aguirre. I show that Becerra was a big dope dealer in the 1980s. He was housed at CRC in 1986, where he had an N number and then got a parole violation in 1986, whereby he was given D number 44381. I showed then he paroled in 1988, but got a forgery charge in 1990, whereby he was assigned E number as in Edward 42644. I showed then he paroled in 1991 and took off for Texas, where he was popped a couple times there, and I lost track of him after that. There was a Jesus Chuy Behill out of Bakersfield is currently known as a Sureño stronghold, and they have held the line there for many years. However, at one time, there was quite a few NF members out of Bakersfield. I showed Chuy was Northern Structure in the 1980s, but was not validated as such until 1988 under C number 44506. Understand that he was later validated as NF under E numbers in Edward 68299. I showed that he was housed at Lancaster in 2012, and I lost track of him after that. There was Jesse Flaco Bejaran out of Westside Modesto. I showed that he was Nuestra Raza in the 1990s under K number 25884. And sometime along the lines, he became validated as Nuestra Familia. He then got out, but came back under F numbers in Frank 81663. He was housed at DVI in 2012, but was out by 2013. There was James Chino Bell from San Fran Mission. I showed he was housed in the Youth Authority in 1985 and paroled from that system in 1987. He then got popped on a dope charge in 1996 and was assigned K number 5258. He then was released on that, but came back into the county jail in 2005, I believe on another dope charge, and was convicted and given V number as in Victor 68801. I showed that he was at San Quentin in 2006 and had paroled by 2011, and I'm unsure of his current whereabouts. There was Art the Rock Beltran out of San Jose. He was what they call state raised. Went to the California Youth Authority at Perkins in the summer of 1966, but paroled by 1967. He then got popped again in 67 and paroled in 1968. He continued to be involved in crime and got his first CDC number in 1973 when he was given B number 50481. He was housed at DVI in 1974 and rose to the rank of captain by 1975. When he paroled in December of 1976, he was considered to be the number 3 NF in the organization. He got arrested again, but decided to testify against the NF in 1977. He paroled in 1978 and entered the WITSE program. Understand, however, that he was popped in San Diego on a dope charge in 1997 and was given 3 years. I show Arturo Beltran was deceased in the year 2003. There was a Peter Abe Bang, aka Black Pete from Salas, who was very close to Brown Bob Viramontes. He had a B number of 79311 and was affiliated with the NF in the 1970s. In fact, I believe he was still considered to be a captain in 1980. He then moved up to Washington State. So there's another one that people say there's no NF in Washington State or anywhere else, especially during the late 1970s through 1980s. I knew quite a few either that were caught up in that Bobo Sosa, Black Bob Vasquez war and moved up to Washington State, in particular into the Yakima Valley where I'm from. There's Samuel, aka Killa Vergara. You could tell he's from the younger generation because back in my day, he would have been known as Maton. He was out of Modesto and had T number 37776. I show that he was validated as Northern Structure by at least 2009 and was housed at Corcoran's Shoe in 2012. And I'm unsure of his current whereabouts. There was Jorge Moro Berna out of Modesto, but also showed had ties to Grimpas. He was affiliated with Nuestra Familia in the 1990s under H number 675. I show he continued to be known as such when they were converted to being just insoles by the NF. He then was popped on a federal charge under BOP number 64890-097 and was housed at the Pollock facility in 2014, whereby there was quite a few Norteños in NF, as seen in this picture here. I show that Jorge Perez Berna was released in February 2014 from the BOP. There's Richard, aka Big Güero Berna from Modesto. I remember this guy as being NF at C facility around 1990 under D number 93727. I understand that he was the individual who sponsored Robert Güero Grattan into the NF. There was a Stephen Indio Blacktongue at a San Francisco Mission District. I'm not sure if he had a CDC number, but I know that he was a hardcore Norteño that I interviewed at the King County Jail in 1992 and was considered to be Northern Structure. After he left that facility, I believe he was in Montana by 2001 and hiding out somewhere there over on one of the res. The states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana have Sureños as well as Norteños. Sureño presence is heavier, however, there are pockets of Norteño strongholds, and I've given several classes throughout the Northwest on that subject. Eventually, Blacktongue came back from the res and returned to his old stomping grounds in Seattle. He was placed on Washington DOC community supervision from 1997 to 2003 after he was convicted of third-degree assault, and he battled substance abuse problems for many years. Although he was very much schooled in the northern ways, I remember when I talked to him that he seemed like kind of a tweaker. He served time in Washington DOC from April 2006 to September 2012 after being convicted of first-degree assault and possession of meth. He then was placed on community supervision until March of 2014. As fate would have it, in March of 2016, Blacktongue walked into a 7-Eleven store in White Center, which is a well-known gang area of mostly Sureños, and wielded a hatchet before he was fatally shot by a customer. And so, Stephen Blacktongue was dead at the age of 43, and like many gang members, lived a very sad existence during much of his life. And so, I'll have to stop right there, but don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 2 of the Bravo last names of Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they, I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own vision.